workload once you become a teacher is only marginally less than it is during teacher training. So the lady that you had on at first, who said you get your holidays, I, as a first year qualified teacher, can say that that is categorically not true. I've worked through every single one of my half-term holidays.
Do you know, Emma, I remember my wife going through this, and it was absolutely horrendous. I mean, it was getting towards the point, and it would, I guess, have not been far off your experience too, of saying, oh, well, I'll do this for a year and then I'm out. You know, why the hell are you slogging your guts out for 40, 50 hours a week, and then during the holidays too, to make the blocks ticked on your MQT assessment, and then by the end of it you're so knackered and tired and fed up. Why would you want to embark on a career in this?
Well, I cling on to the fact that it will get easier. I keep telling myself at the end of every year, okay, next step will be easier. But honestly, if it doesn't get easier, I'm not sure how much longer I would be able to continue with the kind of momentum and enthusiasm that I have.
How long have you been doing it for now?
So this is my first year officially. It's not as an ECT, so you do that for 2 years, ECT training now. And then so it's my first year not in any training.
Acronyms to define a lot of training: PGCE, ECT, MQT. Is there like a cottage industry of private providers of this training that are making an absolute fortune or something?
I'm not sure.
No, listen, I come at this obviously incredibly cynically, Emma. But teaching is a really, really skilled profession. You have to be very, very good at it. But do we need all this training for teachers? All of it? Is it all required?
I think we've got these large class sizes, which also one thing that hasn't been mentioned is the increasing number of students who have special educational needs in classes. So there is an increasing number of students, not only with large class sizes, but also that you have to cater for different needs. And so I think that obviously the teacher training is very important for assisting teachers in learning how to do that, because without that...
Oh, definitely. And there's clearly a problem with class sizes and the fact that there are children in class sizes over 30 than there have been in the last 10 years. Emma, I wish you quite the best of luck. Thank you very much indeed. I don't know whether it's just my algorithms. Is it just my algorithms on my Instagram? I keep getting seeing stuff of teachers. They say that they teach, God knows, saying, right, I've had enough, I'm going to Dubai, or I've had enough, look at my life now in Australia. Keeping that, maybe it's because I'm saying that on the radio, I don't know. But I wonder whether that's happening too. You've done 3 years in it, you are completely burnt out before you're 30. You like the job, but you need to work somewhere else, so you're up in sticks and leaving? Is that something, or you're quitting altogether? 03456060973. Come to more of the course in a sec. Tom Swarbrick here. Coming up,
behind the scenes, there had been a number of difficulties and challenges. You get to the point where you say, enough's enough, and particularly when you get these allegations of bullying.
As the reform row rumbles on, one prominent Conservative donor is considering switching his allegiances to Nigel Farage's party. We'll hear from him now. 4:31, headlines, immediate crops.
Ukraine has rejected claims by Donald Trump that its troops are surrounded in Kursk after he urged Vladimir Putin to spare their lives. Kyiv has also accused the Russian president of trying to sabotage diplomacy by setting unachievable conditions to a ceasefire deal. A former Metropolitan Police officer has appeared in court accused of multiple sex offences. David Carrick has previously denied rape and sexual assault on a woman and a teenage girl and denied 5 further counts of indecent assault. And Downing Street has rejected the suggestion Donald Trump's tariffs are responsible for the UK's economy shrinking in January. Earlier, the Chancellor claimed Britain was feeling the consequences of a changing world. LBC weather largely dry tonight with some isolated showers in southern and eastern England, lows of -3 degrees.
Sunday with Lewis Goodall.
Pat McFadden, Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, Minister for Intergovernmental Relations. Does it worry the British government that the American president has said that anyone would do what Vladimir Putin is doing?
Well, we don't believe Vladimir Putin has to do any of this. The Russians invaded Ukraine and we'll keep supporting Ukraine.
Listen on your radio and on Global Player.
Are we sure that come what may is that President Trump will always be reliable?
on to those changes and not to cling on to old assumptions.
Sunday with Lewis Goodall. Sunday morning from 10 on LBC.
You could be our next Win Plus winner. Enter now to win big cash prizes and loads more at winplus.co.uk. 18 plus, GB only, T's and C's apply.
When you're smiling, Banning Dental Group Clinics with over 5,000 top-rated Google reviews. Keep on smiling.
Recruiters. Don't miss Recruitment Agency Expo at Excel London on the 18th and 19th of March, featuring Deborah Meaden, Tim Campbell, and top recruitment experts and suppliers. Get set to learn, innovate, and outpace your competition. Register free at recruitmentagencyexpo.com. When ordinary people take on extraordinary challenges, when it's the finale after weeks of competition, when it's time to go big or go home.
So, who want to win?
Nothing brings us together like great TV. And a TV license covers you to watch all TV channels with all the reality shows you love to talk about. Search TV license together.
Hey Mum, so you know we met Zara, my financial advisor? Yeah, from St James's Place. Well, she drafted our plan so you can get that bungalow near me. Oh, and Sam, that like the Kia over there, dropping. And I can bring over my signature shepherd's pie. Hoy!
Big decisions call for invaluable advice. Visit St James's Place to find your one-to-one financial advisor. St James's Place Wealth Management PLC is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. SJP approved 19th of Feb 25.
Get amazing quick delivery deals in the Furniture Village clearance event. As we make over new ranges, you can save 50, 60, even 70% off showroom sofas, dining and beds. But hurry, when they're gone, they're gone. Come into your local Furniture Village store or shop online now.
Jobs. Call 0345 6060 973 text 84850. Send a comment to LBC.
4:34. There's loads of calls coming. Get to you, Louis, in just a few moments' time. Very interesting what Richard Phillipson also said today about mobile phones and abandoning in classroom. We'll look at that in more detail in just a few moments. First,
The way the world is evolving today, we will definitely need a strong UK leader who can connect with the US administration.
as the Reform Party descended into a form of rancor and political acrimony, Conservative donors flirting with switching sides. But Helen Mercy has described Nigel Farage as a statesman and paid £25,000 to attend a Reform fundraising dinner. Mr. Mercy joins me live now. Thank you very much indeed for coming back on the show, Mr. Mercy. Is this you coming out for reform?
I think it's early to say because really they are very much together as we come together for the very first time, and it is that night before they jail together and they have a qualified position. They have policies and all this. And as I said, I'm a businessman. I keep optionality has an enormous value for business, so I'm keeping my options open. My dream would be that 3 years from now, there is a way for reform and the Tories to merge. That's what I think would happen and should happen.
Has any of the split narrative, the backlash between Farage and Rupert, has any of that put you off? Or is that just the
It's not really happened. I've had the benefit of talking to insiders on this situation, and they say that two things. A, this is the spoon and teacup, and that this is a Westminster-type bubble where the press has made it out to be a big issue. At the end of the day, it's a spoon and teacup. I think that wiser heads will prevail, and I think, as I said before, I think Nigel should have shown better leadership here by bringing Rupert and Zia in the room and sorting it out. It can be sorted out.
So, do you think you will claim that Nigel Farage was a statesman? Do you think that that statesman
Since his Brexit campaign, he was
pushing reform with the Conservatives and then taking the fight to Labour as one unified party of the right?
So I'm not sure that I would call it a plan. I would call it, there is another party there, which is the Tory party. They've got their voices, they've got their issues. There are other four people in reform, they will have their views. But I think that this is an aspiration, and it's certainly an aspiration worth fighting for.
Finally, what's your view of Kenny Badenoch?
I had the opportunity to see her firsthand, because after the Farage dinner, 2 days later, I went to a London Tory party event at which Kemi spoke, other people spoke, and two things stood out for me. When I heard James Cleverly speak, if he has any political ambitions left in him, I would urge him to seriously consider running for the position of Mayor of London. I think he would be a superb mayor for London, okay? And the second thing I came away with is Kemi's presentation, which I thought that she was still trying to find her feet in a new role. It will take her time. Insiders have told me that she has got the makeup, she has the gumption, but I didn't see it at that event. I think the jury is still out for me. We have time, we have to give her time, because this is a new position for her.
Terrific to talk to you. I appreciate your time this afternoon. Conservative Party. was intense. Wow. Good night, thank you very much indeed. 03456060973, the number after 5.
We need to go further and faster in growing our economy, in ensuring that we boost our national security and defence, and reforming our public services.
The Chancellor seems to blame President Trump for an unexpected fall in UK economic growth. Isn't this rather more perfect? We'll talk about it in the next hour. Thomas Warwick on LBC 4
had a mentor, subject specialist, and then I had a member of the SLT who helped train me, and it was in-house training, more or less. And it was, at the time, I was 27.
So a bit later.
Yeah, it was a bit later, and because I actually, my route was more academic, because I had taught university before that.
Okay, so I see that you have, again, another example of someone who has the relevant experience. You've done some teaching at university, admittedly older, but the experience of standing up in front of people and imparting knowledge in an entertaining and informative way, you've got. But I think that's another perfect example of where a problem has been. It's a bit like the NHS in Dubai. It's a bit like the NHS in Dubai. The duplication of responsible authorities managing a particularly large sector, in this case the NHS. Do we need that? Can we afford that? Does that help in the running of arteries, certainly from this government? No. Similarly with the PGC, is it the right way of actually getting people into the business who know Who has too much money?
Corporations who aren't paying their taxes properly. You should also. No, there is lots of money that could be made with this government. This government seems to be looking at the bottom. But this isn't a problem that is new. This is a problem that has been a long time coming.
All right, Julia, we're going to talk about what the government's been looking at in the next hour, so you might want to stay tuned for that. Thank you for the call. Dee's a first time caller in Wembley. Dee.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, honestly. I appreciate it. I'm only an ECP, so it's a bit like I'm new to the game, new to teaching, but my understanding, I'm under 30, so I don't have kids. I'm fortunate enough to go home and still kind of do work without the stress of having children, but
all the joy, Dee, all the joy.
I'm enjoying it while it lasts. The kids in my class are technically my full attention. Not to say that people that have kids don't give some attention to their kids either. But I do think, honestly speaking, as an ECT, the training was rigorous. It was a lot. I'm also an ECT 2 because they got rid of the.
What does that mean? Sorry, I'm so sorry.
ECT 2 is an early careers teacher.
Oh, there's so many acronyms in education.
Yeah. So before they had NQT, which was 1 year, where you had 1 year to do it. And I think what they of realised is that they weren't retaining as much teachers after it, because after you got fully trained, you're qualified now. You could have chosen to come out. But I just feel like a lot of parents don't support us. That's the reason why I feel pushing away from teaching, won't support it. And there's an overwhelming amount of children with SEN needs, and there's not enough resources. That's why they don't use it as well.
Do you know, it's so funny you say that. That's one of the things that when my wife started out working in a tough school, she ended up having to do. We ended up paying for glue sticks and for pens and actually even kids going on a trip to the beach. There were some kids who'd never been to the beach before in their lives. It was like a tenner or something, and she ended up paying for it in order to help these kids go on that trip. Dude, it's really tough. Good luck to you. Thank you for the call. Jason's a first time caller in Leeds. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Tom. Good afternoon.
Hello, Scott.
I know we don't have time, so I'll be really quick. And just my point would be this, which is, from my perspective, I've been teaching for 6 years, and I feel that it's a vocation. It's unlike other jobs, not an occupation. I think something is within you that drives you to want to do that job, such as doctors, nurses, police officers.
Yeah, but I tell you what, your boss doesn't half trade off that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you say, oh, well, you really want to be here, don't you? So you can't have the pay rise, or we're going to keep the pay low, it's tough, that works.
I think which is ultimately, I come from a certain amount of privilege, and I wouldn't be able to be a teacher had my parents not bought me a car so that I could get to my training when I was 18. So even though there's so many people out there that would be amazing teachers and should be amazing teachers, they don't have the financial backing or access or hoops and
This is
rejected claim. Line. He'd urged his Russian counterpart to spare their lives. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio says America has had positive discussions with Mr. Putin over a potential 30-day truce.
I think there is reason to be cautiously optimistic, but by the same token, we continue to recognize this is a difficult and complex situation. But we certainly feel like we're at least some steps closer to ending this war and bringing peace, but it's still a long journey.
A thief who murdered an Amazon delivery driver has been jailed for at least 30 years. Claudio Carolcanda was crushed while trying to stop 32-year-old Mark Ross from stealing his van. The Education Secretary has given her support to calls for a ban on mobiles in schools.
Phones are disruptive, distracting, bad for behaviour. They have no place in our schools. And the government's position is clear. You have our full backing in ridding our classrooms of the disruption of phones.
Bridget Phillipson has been speaking to the Head Teachers Union's annual conference. She says officials are looking at how to monitor the use of phones within classrooms, despite ministers being accused of watering down the proposed ban. Downing Street says Donald Trump's tariffs are not responsible for the UK economy's weak performance in January. GDP shrank by 0.1%. Earlier, the Chancellor suggested Britain was feeling the consequences of a changing world. And the city regulator is holding a consultation into whether to remove or increase the limit to contactless card payments. The FCA is considering whether firms who use technology to reinforce fraud controls could set their own limits. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed up 89 points at 86.32. The pound buys $1.29 and €1.18. LBC weather largely dry tonight with some isolated showers in southern and eastern England, lows of -3. Sunny spells for most tomorrow and largely dry, turning cloudy in the far north of Scotland with some patchy rain, highs of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Tom Swarbrick.
3 minutes past 5 the time. Very good afternoon to you. Tom Swarbrick on LBC. This hour,
We need to go further and faster in growing our economy, in ensuring that we boost our national security and defence, and reforming our public services.
the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, seems to be taking aim at the White House as part of the reason why the UK economy unexpectedly went backwards last month, only by a touch, but by 0.1%. I say unexpected. There were market forecasters and traders looking at spreadsheets and making calls based on the data, and their expectations were that the UK economy would increase in January. But I think that anyone who works in retail, anyone who runs a small business, or anyone who works in hospitality could have told them very confidently that things were heading in the wrong direction. Rachel Reeves is suggesting that Trump's tariff schedules and the trade wars are impacting the UK economy. No doubt they will have an effect, but currently there aren't any tariffs directly applied on the UK, and that weren't during the month of January. So is the Chancellor spinning the Trump line to cover for the decisions she has made that have had a terrible effect on the UK economy, specifically as unemployment data out this week suggested on jobs? Does number 10 agree with number 11? That Trump's changes are responsible? We'll speak to the chief economist at KPMG in just a moment. First, LBC's political correspondent Aggie Chambray is here with the details. Aggie.
Well, Tom, the Office for National Statistics blames the weather and, more importantly, I suppose, a weak performance in the manufacturing and construction sectors for this contraction. But, as you say, the Chancellor has someone else she wants to blame. She said this morning the world has changed, and across the globe we are feeling the consequences. That's why we're going further and faster to protect our country, reform our public services and kickstart economic growth to deliver on our plan for change.
I believe, this government believes, in free and open trade, and will continue to make that point. We are in negotiations at the moment for an economic agreement with the United States to try and ensure that British exporters are supported to export all around the world, including to the United States.
Now, Tom, what is it about the world that has changed recently? Could it be President Trump entering the White House and the escalating global trade war he started? Well, that very much seemed to be her implication. But when Downing Street were asked later that day, today, were asked if the US president was at fault for this contraction, the PM spokesperson said no. He said, "We know the cost of living crisis is not over and this government is determined to make people better off, and that's why economic growth is the Prime Minister's #1 priority." Well, it may be the government's number one priority, but it's difficult if the Chancellor is essentially saying this is Donald Trump's fault, and Downing Street is saying, no, it is not. So we are in slightly difficult territory. Now, usually, I should say, Labour does blame the Tories instead of Donald Trump. They blame the Tories and the inheritance that they have got. But the Tories today are saying this is all Rachel Reeves's fault.
Nobody wants to see the economy shrinking, but that is what is happening in this general number. Of course, that's on the back of very disappointing data on growth for the last quarter of last year. And that's what we get when the government that is taxing the payouts in the business and talking down the economy.
Johnson, that's what we are, as you know, 12 days away from the statement where incomes are in costs and weak economic growth are likely to require spending cuts. We are a month from seeing the true impact on business and jobs from employment tax rises in the October budget, which will come at the start of April. This could see businesses raise prices and slash jobs. Now, we expect next week to see welfare announced something else users need to go through. Tricky times, as always, ahead.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. Angus Shaw, RBC's political correspondent. Let's turn to Yael Selfin, who's chief economist at KPMG UK. Thank you for coming on the programme, Yael. To what extent can this UK data be put down to what's happening in the White House?
We were looking at the January numbers. In January, it was still early days, really. So you could say some of it will be due to the uncertainty triggered by the US. We'll probably see more of that in the data in the months to come as we see more of the GDP numbers. Part of it would be just a little bit of a, if you like, a correction from a relatively strong December figures. Part of it would be, if you remember at the back end of last year, businesses were relatively disappointed with some of the announcement in the autumn budget with a number of costs, especially labor costs, coming up shortly. So I think that was probably more dominant at that stage rather than the new administration in the US, which is now dominating the picture.
I suggested, Yael, that there are people who are out there in the sort of bricks and mortar economy, working in their shop or serving in their hotel or their bar or whatever, who can see what's happening here. Or they run a small business trying to employ people. They can see that this is heading in a particularly bad direction, and it's not necessarily because of anything Trump has done yet.
Yes, I guess you are right. Although, to caveat that, I'd say that the uncertainty triggered by some of the measures that were announced by the new administration in the US is impacting the overall sentiment and will have a potential very significant impact on the UK economy if tariffs are going to be announced the way they are looking likely. So there's still quite a lot of headwinds potentially for all those people who may not have felt it so far.
What would you do if you were Chancellor to try and boost growth?
So I think one of the things that businesses need at the moment is longer-term certainty. I would be less worried about any potential downward revision to forecast that the OBR may announce to...
Can you imagine that? Yeah, as they say, the spring, sorry to interrupt, 12 days' time, the OBR, it turns out, forecast for growth has dropped again. There is no headroom. That's a disaster for the Chancellor, an absolute disaster.
Not necessarily. What you need to bear in mind is that forecasts go up and down all the time. There'll be plenty of factors that will impact a forecast, and a forecast is just a forecast. It doesn't necessarily mean that the budget won't be met, because we could have an upside and then there will be more room. So it is unfortunate that she has got a very tight room to maneuver with, which means that even a small change in the forecast makes it difficult for her to deliver. But I think generally the best thing is to have a solid medium-term plan of investments that gives businesses a direction of where to go, rather than chop and change every time there is a jump in numbers.
All right. We'll see what happens. Yael, thank you. Yael Selfin, Chief Economist at KPMG UK. Here's Andrew in Fulham. Tom, I'm really glad you're covering this today. It is simply staggering, says Andrew, that the Chancellor is surprised by this recent economic data. Most business owners know the economy is tanking, largely because of the Chancellor's budget. Yet she is now blaming global events. Nearly every business survey has told her that jobs tax will negatively impact growth. At the same time, government and businesses are laying off thousands of people to save costs. So where are all these jobs for people coming off benefits going to be found? Rachel Reeves, says Andrew, is being disingenuous with the British people, and her constant surprise at the economic data proves she does not know what she's doing. Charlie is in Goole in East Yorkshire. Charlie?
Hi mate, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. Your thoughts on this? Number 11 blaming Trump. Number 10 saying it's not Trump.
We don't have much manufacturing, so putting tariffs on aluminium and steel, we're not selling much of it to them anyway, so I don't see how that would alter the economy. Well, I think the main problem is the massive difference between the poor and the rich is so large. I think that needs addressing, and that would, if you reduce taxes on the poor, they could spend more, and if you put more taxes on the super rich, that's more for the government.
So you would like the spring statement, which isn't going to be a budget, we're told, but might as well be. You would like to see the Labour government coming out with a form of wealth tax, a form of vegetation. This is a capital gains.
I'm not sure on that, because I'm not really an expert.
No, so
Gary Deans millionaire that is part of the consort that proposes this tax, and it would only hit 20,000.
Well, we heard, I think this is the same thing that the Green Party co-leader was telling us. The philanthropic millionaires, or whatever they call themselves. That's the crowd. I'm not part of their band, Charlie, as you might know. But they're going to pay over 10 million quid to pay more tax, which would raise X amount and allow people to.
I don't think a wealth tax on we should evaluate somebody's wealth.
Well, amazingly, very rich people are very good at moving their wealth around, completely legally. Charlie, interesting. Thank you very much indeed. And I think Charlie's point is a really good one. We are in an economic hole here. We are really, really struggling under the weight of a ballooning welfare bill, not very much money knocking around to spend, and a necessary increase in defence spending that is going to have to happen as a result of everything that's going on. Money is damn tight. And maybe there are quite a few of you who think that Labour has not gone after the places where the money exists most readily, which is the super wealthy. Do you think that one of the things that Rachel Reeves should do is to put a wealth tax on it? Is to go after the money of the super wealthy? What do you mean by super wealthy? I don't know. More than 10 million in assets or earnings or whatever. 0345 6060 973. Rather than the welfare cuts, which are coming, by the way, I think they're necessary, but they are coming, have Labour made a wrong turn on this and are therefore losing your support? When it comes to the Chancellor herself blaming the White House for the effects of on the economy, is that fair, or is that trying to cover for some of Labour's own errors in taxation, which has put huge pressure on some businesses when they come to employ people? It's why the unemployment figures this week, from a variety of different sources, have been dreadful. And I swear that when you hear it in the headlines, sorry to have a rant here, but you hear it in the headlines a lot. The UK economy unexpectedly went backwards. Well, who has the expectation? The expectation comes from markets and traders and forecasters who go, looking at the data. But I'm telling you now, people who don't live in that world of data and spreadsheets, who are in the bricks and mortars economy, you know that this was going to contract. You know that this was going to come down because you see it around you. People aren't coming in the shop, you can't employ anyone because it's just become too expensive. So it's not a surprise to you, is it? 03456060973. Calls after this. Tom Swarbrick here, 516 headlines. Amelia Cox.
Volodymyr Zelensky says Vladimir Putin is trying to sabotage diplomacy by setting unachievable conditions to a ceasefire deal. A man has been jailed for 30 years after deliberately crushing a delivery driver who was trying to stop him stealing his van. And Downing Street has rejected the suggestion Donald Trump's trade tariffs are to blame for economic decline in January. LBC weather largely dry tonight with some isolated showers in southern and eastern England, lows of -3 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff. There are long delays on the M25 clockwise from junction 14 for Heathrow to junction 16 for the M40 after a car broke down earlier, so all the lanes are open now. There are queues in Perivale on the A40 Western Avenue going out of town. There's one lane closed because a car has broken down at the Hoover building. It's heavy in Harrow. Gayton Road is closed in both directions between St John's Road and Leon Road because of an accident. It's Braxton and Walthamstow. Hoe Street is partly blocked in both directions. That's because of an accident at Church Hill. On the tube, there's no service on the Piccadilly line between Cockfosters and Oakwood, and there are severe delays between Oakwood and Arnos Grove. That's because of problems with the signals, and there are minor delays in the Central, Jubilee and Victoria lines because of cancellations.
This is LBC.
Tired of unreliable broadband? Switch to EE today and get the most reliable full fiber ever.
Now that's breakfast.
I can help them revise online. Yes, yes, and yes. Willie will handle the switch for you.
That's so quick.
You betcha. All for only $26.99 a month.
$29.99 from 31st of March 2026. 24 months. New customers. 50% UK availability. Terms apply.
Call Tom Swarbrick 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Most homes could save with Octopus Energy.
I've dealt with many utility companies for many years across several properties, and to get some absolute breath of fresh air.
Octopus Energy, outstanding value with award-winning customer service. Visit octopus.energy/value for our calculation.
Next time you walk their dog or feed their cat, when you pop by for a cuppa or just stop for a chat, tell your friends about pension credit. They could be missing out on an average of over £4,000 per year to boost their pension income. Pension credit also unlocks other support like help with heating costs, council tax, and a free TV licence for people over 75. Tell them to search for pension credit on gov.uk. Pension credit. Credit where credit's due. Eligibility criteria apply.
Serious about the right vitamins for you and your family? Trust Vitabiotics, the UK's #1 vitamin company for expert nutrition care for every age and lifestyle. Vitamins for everyone, including well man, well woman, well baby, and well kid. From Boots, pharmacies, and Vitabiotics.com. For #1 verification, see Vitabiotics.com.
One voice can only do so much. But lots of voices can change the world. Whatever helping nature looks like for you. From spreading the word to becoming a member, or helping wildlife where you live. Find your flock with the RSPB. Because together we fly. Activate now at rspb.org.uk. The RSPB is a registered charity.
Beat the April energy cap rise. Fix your price with Octopus Energy, Britain's #1 choice. Visit octopus.energy/1.
This is LBC. Message Tom Swarbrick on WhatsApp now on 0345 6060 973.
5 the time. Tom Swarbrick on LBC picking up on the Chancellor's explanation for why the UK economy went backwards. I mean, it's not big, it's not 0.1% saying I'm going to notice it necessarily, but I think what you do notice when you are starting to see, and in better place to tell me because you run a business, you employ people, you're looking for Saudi Arabian PIF and all kinds of sovereign wealth funds. We want to attract their money. We do generally attract their money, but we want to attract even more of their money to buy lots of bits of Britain, apparently. I don't think the multimillionaire who did brilliantly in business and sold it for 25 million quid, I don't think they are investing in Britain in the way in which sovereign wealth funds are. They're just having a lovely time. They've got a couple of houses, several cars, they go on very nice holidays, they do part of the year overseas, or whatever. Are they how useful are they to UK economic data?
It obviously depends as well, actually, how we define super wealthy. But I think just making it harder for people to be wealthy and therefore removing. So I'm a self-employed builder, I actually work on my own. And one of the things I aspire to is having some people work with me.
do this job and speak to a lot of people every day. We talk about, obviously, we talk about the economy quite a lot. You don't need the market forecasters to say, oh, actually, I think we're going to grow a bit, and then be surprised when it goes the other way. I think out there, in the real world, people know that the canary is chirping away. They can see it, they can feel it, whether it's their own job, whether it's job vacancies, the company they run. And to blame Donald Trump, I don't get it. 03456060973 528 Ben Kumasi from Second Investment Management for a business update. One of the things that tends to happen, Ben, perhaps inexplicably, when world events change and there is uncertainty, is they buy gold.
Absolutely, gold just ticked back under. Oh no, we're at $3,000 an ounce as we speak on gold. I know like big numbers. So the amount of it's the first time gold went over $3,000. So it's been linked to what you're saying. There is a really interesting article on this in China, in India, in America, in Europe. There is this sense of gold is the thing you buy when you don't know what's going on. Now, we don't know what's going to happen to gold either. It's been around for a long time. And if it will make you much more, if I did a little bit of digging, there's only over 5,000 tons of gold left in the ground, which is about 15 years worth of extraction of gold, right? So there is meant to be a population of gold that is shown in the ground. There is already, as we've seen these tampons and this reflected from a lot of gold come over to the US, about $17 billion worth that's been flown in physically into New York. Yeah, in denominations of your choice. You can, I mean, when things like that on national radio.
Not accusing you of that, just not accusing you of that. Let's not call that over.
Okay, I get it. It's a Friday. Didn't mean it. But yeah, you can. And they're saying, they've said over the last 6-7 months, sometimes they're running out. People are coming in to the US and the UK. They're coming in and they go, yeah, I want the gold. And Costco's going, well, we haven't got any left, which is a really interesting state of affairs.
Ben, although I would say that for the gold joke that you did earlier, you should be proud. Thank you very much. Ben Kumar from Second Investment Management.
LBC Business Update.
With hours off, the easy way to manage staff leave and absence.
You're listening to Tom Swan. This is coming up.
Now is the time for a ceasefire with no conditions. Ukraine set their position out and is now for Russia to accept it.
As Vladimir Putin says ceasefire negotiations are starting to move, reports say the Russian president believes Trump is weak, lacks principles, and may be open to manipulation. Details after this 5:31 headlines and media comments.
Vladimir Zelensky has accused Russia of trying to sabotage diplomacy by setting unachievable conditions to a ceasefire deal. Kyiv has also rejected claims it is surrounded in the Kursk region after Donald Trump urged Vladimir Putin to spare the lives of Ukrainian soldiers. The man has been jailed for at least 30 years for the death of an Amazon delivery driver who tried to stop his van being stolen. While police repeatedly crashed the vehicle Georgian character was clinging onto. And former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney has been sworn in as Canada's Prime Minister. He replaces Justin Trudeau, who announced his resignation in January. LBC weather largely dry tonight with some isolated showers in southern and eastern England. Lows of -3 degrees.
This is LBC.
Your whole day done. Work done. Being crammed onto a packed bus done.
Russia that Ukraine moved into. Now, that doesn't appear to be recognising the situation. But once again, Russia appears to have changed it.
So capital gains and income tax should be at the same rates.
Signals earlier at Cockfosters on the
173 LBC.
Next time you walk their dog or feed their cat, when you pop by for a cup or just stop for a chat, tell your friends about pension credit. They could be missing out on an average of over £4,000 per year to boost their pension income. Pension credit also unlocks other support like help with heating costs, council tax, and a free TV licence for people over 75. Tell them to search for pension credit on gov.uk. Pension credit. Credit where credit's due. Eligibility criteria.
sounds good to say. But for years, the globalists, the big globalists, have been ripping off the United States.
Oh, the big globalists, those shadowy figures from the outer reaches of the internet. They're the ones responsible, not the president, who can't decide whether he's really committed to his trade war or not. The current CNBC commentator Steve Leesman, who has been on the Business Channel for a quarter of a century, had seen enough. Indeed it is, not a God-fearing predictions and waiting to see if anyone is going to stop them.
From Washington, D.C., American Week. You're listening to Tom Swarbrick on LBC. These are the headlines at 6 o'clock.
That's what you get when you have a government that is taxing living daylights out of business.
Rachel Reason says she's determined to turn around the economy after another decline in January.
Now it's time for a ceasefire with no conditions.
G7 allies say they are united in calling for a lasting ceasefire in Ukraine.
I, Mark, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I shall be a true and faithful servant to His Majesty.
Former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney sworn in as Canada's new Prime Minister, and
new diagnosis, so-called ADHD and dyslexia are then subjective.
The polemicist writer Peter Hitchens says there's no such thing as dyslexia, arguing that it's a made-up affliction. After the news, your experiences of living with it.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 6 o'clock, Volodymyr Zelensky has accused Russia of lying over the situation on the front line after Donald Trump claimed his forces were surrounded. The Ukrainian president says Moscow is also trying to sabotage diplomacy by setting unachievable conditions to a ceasefire deal. Pierre Giles is a senior consulting fellow at the Russia and Eurasia program at Chatham House. He's told LBC what we're hearing from the Kremlin is no surprise.
Exactly as anticipated. Putin stalling while he thinks that Russia still has a military advantage, and of course also angling for what else he can weasel out of the United States to try and get the United States to get from Ukraine. Looking for more advance to get into this process because the US have made it very clear that they are very invested in swift results, and that of course puts them in a vulnerable negotiating position.
A man who crushed an Amazon delivery driver to death has been jailed for at least 30 years for his murder. 32-year-old Mark Ross pinned Claudio Carol Candor against a parked car as he tried to stop his van being stolen in Leeds last year. Downing Street says it doesn't believe the decline in the UK economy in January was down to Donald Trump's trade tariffs. The Chancellor earlier suggested Britain is feeling the consequences of a changing world. GDP shrank by 0.1% at the start of the year. Chief economist at KPMG UK, Yael Selfin, has told LBC it's more likely to be Rachel Reeves' budget than the picture in the US.
Part of it would be just a little bit of a, if you like, a correction from a relatively strong December figures. Part of it would be, if you remember at the back end of last year, businesses were relatively disappointed with some of the announcement in the autumn budget, with a number of costs, especially labour costs, coming up.
Former footballer Joey Barton has pleaded not guilty to sharing allegedly offensive posts on social media. The 42-year-old is accused of making insulting remarks about presenters and commentators. The ex-manager denies 12 charges. And former Bank of England Governor Mark Carney has been sworn in as Canada's new Prime Minister. He replaces Justin Trudeau, who announced his resignation in January. Mr Carney is expected to trigger a general election in the coming days or weeks. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed up 89 points at 86.32. The pound buys $1.29 and €1.18. LBC weather largely dry tonight with some isolated showers in southern and eastern England, lows of -3. Sunny spells for most tomorrow and largely dry, turning cloudy in the far north of Scotland with some patchy rain, highs of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Amelia Cox.
This is LBC. From Global, leading Britain's conversation with Tom Swarbrick.
Very good evening to you. 3 minutes past 6 the time. You're listening to Tom Swarbrick here on LBC. Hope you find you well this Friday night. In a few moments,
If you want to maintain something exists, you have to have an objective, textual, reliable attention for its existence. And in neither case is there any such thing.
That, Peter Hitchens, in early. talking to LBC this morning, partly because there has been a noticeable increase over the last few years in the number of children diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD. There was a study analysing data from 2000 to 2018. The ADHD diagnoses and prescriptions for ADHD medication increased significantly. The relative increase was most significant among adults, especially men aged 18 to 29. As of January 2024, approximately 18.4% of pupils in England were identified as having SEN with dyslexia, totaling about 1.7 million students. You talk to teachers about the numbers they are dealing with, the difficulty that they are having in getting the right support to pupils with a dyslexia diagnosis or with a diagnosis of ADHD. I know that Jamie Oliver has launched, I think, a campaign this week, or last week, about his own dyslexia and the difficulty of living with dyslexia. But the author and columnist Peter Hitchens has made a controversial claim that dyslexia and ADHD actually don't exist. This is what he said on LBC.
So-called ADHD and dyslexia are both subjective, and therefore challenge. These attempts to create a neurological explanation of ADHD, what's noticeable, and dyslexia, I'm sorry, they do get terribly mixed up. What's noticeable is that these supposed tests are not applied when people actually go and get themselves diagnosed. Thousands of people each year who are children generally who are said to have dyslexia are not subjected to neurological tests. The tests that are done are not done by doctors. They're based on subjective criteria. We live in a country with extremely bad schools in which many children emerge after 11 years of full-time schooling knowing almost nothing. And these schools have been deteriorating for many years, and during that time also the levels of reading ability among our children, and this is also, has been the case in the United States, have gravely deteriorated. This is a very old problem.